I'm just waiting for our important person to get here. There she is.
Please go. Oh, here, yeah,
Yes.
there you go.
Good morning. My name is David Howell, for anyone who doesn't happen to know me. So welcome to everyone. It seems like it's kind of a larger and noisier group Sunday after Sunday, and that's a really nice thing. And to all the virtual people as well, I don't know what it's like to do things virtually. I like doing things in person, but whatever. If you're a virtual person, then you are welcome to, and you are part of what we are doing here. So, welcome to another gathering of Unitarian Universalists at Westside. We are a welcoming group, and I think that is really true. It's not just something that we say. There are a couple of things in the Journal of Announcements to mention here. First of all, there is a potluck going on. Let me put my glasses on. A potluck going on today, since it is the first Sunday of the month. And while it's going on, there is going to be a discussion of building your own theology, our monthly spiritual discussions for people to participate in. If you've never really been a person who's done that, it's amazing how your own thoughts can become clearer when you just try to say them out loud, or you realize what you would like to clarify when you say them out loud. As a teacher of many years, I remember hearing over and over again, no, I don't like to talk, I like to just listen and learn things. Well, you can learn when you're talking too, and participating in a conversation with others. Anyway, please stay for the potluck. I know there is good food, as there always is. The other item in things coming up, I would like Yetta to come up and say a word about it. That's the Kick the Habit. Westside is hosting a plastic-free week.
Hello, is everybody ready for Plastic-Free Week? I believe it begins the 4th through the 10th, so it's coming right up. There are some sheets in the back if you want to sign up for it. I will come up with some, we'll have like a raffle, and all the people who return sheets at the end of the week telling what they did through this checklist that's provided for you will be put into a raffle, and there will be some prizes like maybe grocery bags or produce bags, or maybe even a non-plastic water bottle. So please sign up and just see what you can do. Give us some feedback on what plastic-free options you managed to succeed in doing, and which ones were just too hard. And if you thought of any others, that would be also good to know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yetta.
I should say we'll have an envelope back there for you to return these in.
And on the bottom of the page, in your order of service, it says in big letters, Children's Religious Exploration Returning to Westside. And Reverend Carol would like to say a word about that.
Morning, everybody. Good to see, okay, we're gonna try that again. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good to see you all. I know everybody's a little stressed out right now, but it's a gorgeous day, and we are all here together in a wonderful place. So let me just introduce myself if I haven't met you yet. My name is Reverend Carol Bodeau. I'm privileged to serve here as minister. Big welcome to everyone who is here with us virtually, whether that is right now or whether it's at some point in the future that you're checking us out on our YouTube channel. We really appreciate you being here. So one of the things that we are restarting is our children's programs. And that's, for those of you who've been here longer, you'll know that that was something that became very difficult to maintain during COVID. So we're slowly getting restarted on that. And here's what we are going to do. Starting in January, is Leslie here? There you are, Leslie. If you could stand up so people in the room can see. Leslie has agreed to coordinate actual content-based religious education, religious exploration for kids, starting, and it'll be the first Sundays of every month. So at the same time as our potlucks, we will have regular classes for the kids, just once a month. The other Sundays, we will have childcare available, but we really want to encourage, if you have kids, or if you're a family that knows a family with kids, we're going to be reaching out to those families that have been around some in the last few months. And I want to make a special plug for our service on December 15th. December 15th is going to be our holiday play and our holiday party. This will be a service where all kids who show up will get to have a part if they want a part without having to do anything in advance. And at the party, there will be activities. So this is going to be an opportunity for families with children to come back and kind of start to get to interact together again. So please spread the word about that. We're really hoping to kind of jumpstart that part of our program here again. And a big thank you to Leslie for being willing to coordinate that. I have one other announcement that I want to make sure, and I don't believe it's in the order of service. We just decided this this week. So the book club, some of you participate in our book club that happens here at West Side. They meet virtually, I think, still, right? Is that right? The book club is meeting virtually. And the book club has decided for January to read what is called the Common Read. So the Unitarian Universalist Association chooses books that they think UUs in general would benefit from reading. And the common read right now that the book club has decided to read, and I want to encourage all of you to read, because we're going to be talking about it as a congregation in January, is a book called Authentic Selves, Celebrating Trans and Non-Binary People and Their Families by Peggy Gillespie. So we'll have more about that in the newsletter. You can get, all you have to do is go to the UUA bookstore online and you'll see it's our common read. Here's how you can get it. I will probably order a few copies for the congregation to be available for those of you who need some help and support in getting a hold of that book. But that is the common read. The book group will be discussing it in January. I will be doing a service about it in January. So I want to encourage you in advance to think about reading the book. Buy it as a holiday gift for a friend, for a neighbor, invite them to come discuss it with us. It's called Authentic Selves, and it's by Peggy Gillespie. We'll post information about it on the website and in the e-news, and all you have to do is really go to the Unitarian Universalist Association's. If you just typed in Common Read, UUA Common Read, you would get all kinds of info about it. Okay. So I believe that's all our announcements and things for this morning. So what we're going to do is we are going to invite the bowl to sound. So our service today is about the election. How many of you are feeling a little bit stressed? Anybody besides me feeling a little stressed? I cannot tell you how many conversations I have had in the last couple of weeks from people all over the political spectrum and all over the country who are stressed. This service is meant to help us be a little less stressed and a little more hopeful and a little more calm. So as I invite our bowl to sound, what I'd like to invite you to do is take a deep breath and repeat this in your head. There's always hope. Things can always get better. There's always hope. Things can always be better. There's always hope, no matter what's happening. Things will change. So I want to just invite you as the bowl sounds to get that feeling. There's always something new just down the road. There's always something new just down the road.
Reverend Carol will light the chalice and then the 2 candles for good and bad things that have happened. I always look for a poem first to read during the chalice lighting, and I found one from Mary Oliver, my favorite poet, about stress and worrying and how silly that is. I worried a lot. Will the garden grow? Will the rivers flow in the right direction? Will the earth turn as it was taught? And if not, how shall I correct it? Was I right? Was I wrong? Will I be forgiven? Can I do better? Will I ever be able to sing, given the sparrows can do it, and I am, well, hopeless? Is my eyesight failing, or am I just imagining it? Am I going to get rheumatism, lockjaw, dementia? Finally, I saw that worrying had come to nothing and gave it up, and took my old body and went out into the morning and sang. Well, we'll sing after Reverend Carol's sermon here, but get ready to the mood of sing, and don't worry about whether you're good at singing or not. Just sing.
So before we begin our conversation about political crisis, I'd like to invite us to take a moment to reflect on the constant ups and downs that is this human experience. I've lit our 2 candles that remind us that there are always joys and sorrows. Even on the weeks when we don't have a lot of public conversation about our joys and sorrows, there are always things happening in the world that are worth celebrating, and also things that are difficult and worth marking as struggles. So today I'd like to invite you to just turn your head towards a window and peek outside. It is gorgeous out there. The sun rose today. It is beautiful, and we had rain. These are worth celebrating. And I also want to take a moment specifically to name the people struggling in Spain with the horrible floods that happened there. We had our own horrible floods here recently, and I'm particularly touched by the struggles of people there who are experiencing very much the same thing right now. So let's just take a moment to take a couple of deep breaths and send our caring thoughts and wishes to them as well. It is no secret right now that we feel, many of us, like things are a little rough. We're concerned about the climate, and we're certainly concerned about the political situation. I have had, like I just said, innumerable conversations in the last couple of weeks where people are feeling upset. They're feeling sad, they're feeling afraid, they're feeling anxious, they're feeling frustrated. People have a tendency to want to get in fights right now. Little things can trigger bigger arguments than they might on an average week. So I would say that we're all feeling a little stressed out right now. A recent AP NORC Center for Public Affairs poll gives us a clear sense that Americans are worried. About 40% of the responders to the poll are extremely or very concerned about post-election violence. A significant proportion of voters are concerned that the loser of the election will refuse to concede the election, despite the fact that 90% of those responders think it's the loser's obligation to do so. They don't feel confident that the loser will do so. And responders on all sides are expressing deep concerns about the weakening of democracy in our nation. And we are divided across this nation on exactly who is the greatest threat to that democracy. Okay? I have spoken to people everywhere along the political spectrum in the last couple weeks, and I will tell you that they're all equally worried. We're stressed, we're concerned, and we're coping with it in a lot of ways. I will tell you that I caught myself in my personal favorite distraction over the last couple weeks, which is baking. Carbs are a fantastic response to stress. I have made cookies, I've made cakes, I've made breads. I mean, I've baked a lot. It's nice that it's fall because I'm getting away with it, right? People are like, that's what you do in the fall. But I know better. I know that this is a stress response that I'm having. It makes me feel somehow more comforted to have a lot of carbs around. People are depressed, and some people are having a hard time functioning. I know that some people I've spoken to said, I just am not going to do anything until it's over. And unfortunately, it might not be really over for a minute, right? Some of us are in a fighting mode. Ready? Anybody noticed you or friends around you being in fighting mode lately? Ready to kind of bicker at the drop of the proverbial hat? So, on Halloween, this is my Halloween story. I had a little bit of a double dose of this. So, over breakfast, I had a very interesting experience on Halloween day. So, some of you know that my younger son lives in California. So, I was sitting at breakfast with my husband, Tracy, talking about the election, while concurrently messaging on Facebook with my son in California about the election. They are different people. One is a young adult, one is a almost 60-something Tennessee farmer. Very California young adult. I love them both. They have both absolutely valid points about all sorts of things, but they were not saying the same thing. And I was sitting in the middle, messaging one, talking to the other, trying to handle that situation. And yet, in the middle of that sort of, they both kind of wanted to be in fight mode. Well, I think this needs to happen. Well, I think that needs to happen. Well, I think this needs to happen. And they agreed on a lot of things. It wasn't that they were necessarily disagreeing. It's that they both wanted to have a fight about it. And they both wanted me to be the one that could be the bouncing off person for this particular argument. Anybody feeling that? Like that somebody around you is feeling the stress and needs somebody to let it out on? Or maybe you're that person. Maybe you're feeling the stress and you're looking for some way to let it out. So the three of us, I told them, I'm the Libra in the group, right? Of the three of us in that conversation that morning, I was the Libra, and I literally felt like, the sign for Libra? Like that's where I was. I was like, yeah, I see your point. Yep, I see your point. Yep, right? And we did all agree on a few things. First, the three of us agreed that this election is tough and stressful. Second, we agreed that it's important because we have much deeper implications that we're all concerned about for this election. Not just how this is going to turn out for right now. We are thinking as a nation about how this is going to turn out for the long term for the nation. Third, we all agreed that there are no simple answers right now. This is another thing we tend to do in response to this kind of stress is to want a simple answer. But the truth is there's probably no really simple answers. And fourth, the fourth thing we all agreed about was this. Talking about it is hard, but it is absolutely essential. So I found myself that morning really appreciating the idea of community. I was blessed and lucky to be able to have these conversations across very different cultural contexts with people who had agreement on the core values, but slightly different perspectives on how to handle things. I was appreciative of my biological family, my chosen family, and I was also appreciative in that moment of communities like this, because we can have conversations about these things. I know that these relationships of care and commitment help us humans get through challenges. So that was kind of helpful, but the truth is that was in the morning and I still felt kind of stressed out. I'm like, yeah, okay, I feel a little bit better, but it wasn't answering the question for me, wasn't solving the problem for me. And then at the end of the day, this is where I got the much-needed sense of, if not a solution or even a resolution to the stress, at least a sense of peace and hope. Because at the end of the day, it was Halloween, right? And Halloween, for those of you who are familiar with the earth-based traditions, in the earth-based traditions, it's called Samhain, which is a celebration of the ancestors. And in the Christian tradition, it's also a celebration of the ancestors. All Saints and All Souls Day are celebrated at Halloween time. In Mexican culture, Dia de los Muertos, again, a celebration of the ancestors. In all these different traditions, this time of year is a time when we honor the ancestors. We remember their gifts and the things we learned from their lives. Now, when I recognized that, we were sitting there, and my husband Tracy and I started talking about the ancestors. First thing I thought, oh no, we didn't do our remembrance service at church this year because we've been so distracted by the election. We forgot to schedule a remembrance service. And then I thought, well, oh well, we do what we can. And Tracy and I began our little remembrance service ourselves. We lit a candle, and we sat in our dining room, and we just each had a piece of paper, and we sat there quietly, and we didn't talk. We just wrote down the names of all the people who had passed from our lives, who had been teachers, sometimes in ways that were difficult, sometimes in ways that were gentle and comforting and wonderful. All the people who had taught us things about the world through their examples, through their words. The people who had helped us in times of difficulty. People that some of them were family, some of them were not family, some of them were actual people we'd met, others were people we hadn't met. We just sat at the table with that one candle lit, with a piece of paper in front of us, writing down the names of those who had gone before. And that went on for nearly an hour. Occasionally one of us would say a word, and you know, oh, that person said this to me, and that would trigger the other one of us to have a memory. And when we were done, which of course we weren't done because by the next morning we'd remembered more people, but by the end of that evening, I felt a sense of peace and connection that I don't usually feel. Usually I'm caught up in my own drama. Aren't we usually caught up in our own drama of the day? But that night, I felt like I was part of something much bigger and much longer. And we both went to bed with a sense of calm and gratitude that hadn't been there after the morning's debate. And during the night, I awoke thinking about one of the people, the person whose name I'd really written down first. You've heard me talk about her, my neighbor, Grandma, the woman who lived next door to me when I was growing up as a child, Marion. She was a childless widow whose husband had died long before I was born. And she lived in the house next door, which was her parents' house. And because she moved there as an older woman to take care of her parents when they were passing. She was, for all intents and purposes, my grandmother, the really good kind of grandmother. I went straight to her house after school. She baked for us. She celebrated holidays with us. She taught me how to play the piano. She traveled the world. And she was, though I didn't realize this till much later in life, a Universalist. In a world where I didn't know anything about Unitarian Universalism. She was a Universalist. And I began thinking about all the things her life had seen. All the social and political crises and upheavals that she had lived through. And this gave me perspective. So when I think about her life, I'm just going to give you a little summary of her life to put our struggles in context. She was born in 1902. She lived in a very small town where her father ran the local grocery store and her mother took care of the family and volunteered at church. The year after Marion was born, Wilbur and Orville Wright took their first airplane flight. Now, this was someone I grew up with. And then I'm like, wait, she was born before wow. Okay? When Marion was 6 years old, Henry Ford started mass producing the Model T automobile, just 50 miles away from our home in southern Michigan. The telephone was a relatively new arrival in town. When she was 10, the Titanic sank in the North Atlantic, and I can only imagine how that must have seemed to a little girl hearing that story. Imagine that, being a child hearing that story. This catastrophe paled in comparison to the World War that began when she was just 12. That lasted all through her teen years, ending when she was 16. So her teenage years occurred during a world war where people that she knew from her town went off to war and did not come home. They all believed it was the war to end all wars. But of course, that wasn't true. You see, this is so much more real to me when I think of history not as a list of dates, but as her lived experience. When she was 18, just entering adulthood, the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution passed, giving women, her mother, the women she had gone to school with, and their mothers, the right to vote for the first time in American history. Now, you got to know there was a lot of political upheaval around that. What a monumental change that must have been in their understanding of themselves and the world. She became a school teacher and then a principal in an elementary school. She got married and was living a relatively calm, happy life. You know, there are these phases in our individual and collective histories where things are going along pretty okay, right? And then the next Great War arrived. When she was 39 years old, Pearl Harbor was bombed and the U.S. entered World War II. Now, we see that as a historical event, but think about that in her life. By the time it ended with the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and with the Allied invasion of Europe, her beloved husband, Don, who was a military dentist, had died of cancer while serving abroad. The world had changed irrevocably. Can you imagine having been born in a time where transportation was horses and phones were operated by switchboard? And then to have atomic bombs enter your reality? Think about the monumental change that meant for her understanding of the world. Think about how big of a crisis that must have felt like. And even after all that, that was just, that was the first half of her life. Then she lived through the Cold War, the eventual collapse of the Soviet Union, the building and the destruction of the Berlin Wall, the Korean War, Watergate, desegregation, the upheaval of the Civil Rights Movement, the Vietnam War, the assassinations of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., of Robert Kennedy, and of Malcolm X, right? I mean, holy smokes. That was a lot. That was a lot. And here's what I remember about her. She always took time to sit with me and talk to me. She kept butterscotches and peppermints on the marble-top table next to her rocking chair. She did crossword puzzles. She taught me about her travels around the U.S. When she served canned pears, she did it with style. She would give me a canned pear on a fancy plate with a slice of lettuce and then the pear half filled with cottage cheese. Right? Marion loved vanilla ice cream, but she always bought the good kind with the actual flecks of vanilla in it. Right? She was always hopeful, always kind, always spoke well of her ancestors, and lived the values of enjoying life to the fullest, of being grateful, and of being of service no matter what was going on. There was only one time that I ever experienced her really touching into the pain and the difficulty of those earlier parts of her life, of those struggles, and it was when I asked her to teach me how to play taps on the piano. And she said, I'm sorry, you'll have to have someone else teach you that. Because she'd seen too many of her beloved friends and family have that piece of music played at their funerals. Just before she died, and I mean literally just a few days before she died, and she wasn't sick. She was not sick. She was a universalist. Boy, she loved life. She knew things were, she was headed for, she did not believe in any worrying about the afterlife. She was all good with that. And as she got older, she got really annoyed when, her health started to impede her progress a little bit. And she had a certain prescience when it was about her time to pass. She was not sick at all. But a few days before she died, she sat me down and she said, I need to have a talk with you. And she gave me this necklace that I'm wearing today. We had birthdays that were very close to each other. She was a Libra too. And so she gave me this necklace with a Libra on it, all about staying in balance. And she said this to me, and you all can remind me of this anytime you think I need to know it. She said, Carol, you got to learn to roll with the punches. You can't fight everything so hard. You've got to learn to roll with the punches and accept what you can, what you can't change. And just do what you can. I was 14 at the time, but I knew at the time that was really important advice, which has stuck with me. It has probably been the most important piece of advice I've ever had. Marion knew what political crisis looked like. She knew what it was like to be in a nation that had gone to war. She knew what it was like to encounter intense political division and strife in her town, in her community. She knew what changing and dangerous times felt like. She knew what the civil rights struggles felt like. She knew what we're feeling right now. But she had universalist values. And thinking about her, I realized that perhaps that's where the real comfort and reassurance might come from. Our ancestors. Maybe they have some answers that we could rely on right now. The human story is filled with drama and trauma and crisis. It always has been, and it probably always will be. We humans, unfortunately, seem to have a knack for creating messes, things that stress us out and get us tangled up in all kinds of troubles, personally, collectively, socially, politically. We just seem to have a knack for that. And they can be terrifying and horrific messes, for sure. But we also have the ability, always have, always will, we also have the ability to find beauty, grace, love, care, and hope in times like that. Our ancestors, and don't get me wrong, I know that they certainly helped create some of the problems we're experiencing, right? Just as we are creating problems that future generations will have to figure out. They also learned things and had some of the answers. By the time I knew Marion, she had lived through most of those experiences. And she had accumulated wisdom. Isn't that the wonderful thing about elders and ancestors? They've got some wisdom from these struggles. How each of us is going to weather whatever political and social storms our lives may see, whatever's going to happen in the next week or months or years, each of us is going to weather those storms personally, individually. We may each have different strategies. I need my carbs. I'm just going to continue baking. It makes me happy. I'm going to watch Great British Baking Show on Netflix because it makes me happy, right? You may have your own strategies that you need, but at the same time, we have collective ways of forging ahead and living our values no matter what is going on. We have the wisdom, not just of our community in this moment, too. we have the wisdom of all of the people that came before us. We are part of a thread of human history. We're not the only moment in human history. We are part of a thread of human history. And for me, connecting with Marian's spirit helped me a lot. She knew me. She knew what advice would help me. She said, roll with the punches. Know what you can control. And when you can't control the outcome, just stay with your truth, stay with your values. Do what you can. And I know that all of us have ancestors like this. Every one of us in this room has people that we know, that we remember, people who have passed, people who had their own struggles, who taught us things. A teacher, a relative, a mentor. Maybe it's a famous figure. When Tracy and I were making those lists, people like Walt Whitman and the poet Hafiz were prominent on my list of ancestors who taught me things that I needed to know. And this is where you all come in. Everybody should have a pen and a piece of paper. And we handed out the hymnals partly so that you would have something to write on. So here's what we're going to do. Typically in our remembrance service, we build a big altar up here and we put photographs and we honor these people in a very public way. But today we're going to do something different. Today, in a few minutes, I'm going to play some music. I'm just going to play music for a few minutes to give you all some reflection time. And here's what I want to invite you to do. I invite you to simply sit with your paper, pens. There's plenty more. If anybody needs, if you don't have some, please get some. And Jerry's got some back there on the table. I think there's some back there. If anybody needs some, raise your hand. We'll make sure you get some. This is for you to keep. This is personal. You can write down the memories of any ancestors that give you hope, comfort, or inspiration right now. Write down the words that you think they would say to you. Use both sides of the paper. Write whatever it is that you think your ancestors, maybe it's your third grade teacher, your grandfather, maybe it's, a poet that you loved or the author of a book that was written hundreds of years ago. And whether or not you're writing about the election or something that's happening to you, that's more personal. Write down the names and the wisdom of the ancestors that give you something to hold on to. Think of it like their surfboard in times of waves of crisis, right? No one's going to see what you write. You can fold this up and take it with you. And if you don't feel like writing, we're Unitarian Universalists. You do not have to write. You could do whatever you want. Those of you who are home, I invite you to do the same. Get a piece of paper and a pen, or simply sit quietly if you don't want to write. Simply reflect on those who have passed. Our ancestors saw plenty of upheaval and human folly. And they also had moments of beauty, grace, hope, care, and promise. That we exist is proof that they did not give up when things were difficult. If we are here and we are able to have this conversation, it proves to us that they made it through difficult times. So let's allow those memories to bring us insight and comfort, and I will simply play a couple songs on the piano while we do that. So if you finished writing, great. And if you haven't, keep writing. There's no reason to stop. As Tracy and I did this experiment, we wrote for an hour, and we still thought of more. But I'm going to invite you, if you would like to join us, I'm going to invite the choir to come forward, because we're going to sing. You can use those hymnals. We actually didn't put this in the order of service, but we decided we're going to invite you to sing with us. So the choir is going to come up, and I'm going to invite you to turn to number 391 in your hymnal. It's called Voice Still and Small. And we're going to sing this song. It's one of the ones I was just playing. We're all going to sing it together. We're going to sing it through twice. The voice inside our head has a couple of sources. Now, the voice inside our head usually, when we're being mean to ourselves, sounds like someone who told us all the things we were doing wrong or should have done better when we were younger. That sound familiar to anyone? The voice in our head that's like, you should do this more. You should have figured this out. You should, right? But there's also another voice that's in there. And it's often the voice of the ancestors who said things to us that were wise. It's the presence of the person who was able to be calm when we were freaking out or upset. It's the words, the comforting words of someone when we were worried or confused or scared. So we're going to sing this. You are welcome to remain seated, but I invite you to join with us. The choir is going to sing, and you're going to sing as you like with us. We're going to sing it through twice, voice still and small, with gratitude for those who went before us, who instilled those voices of calm and comfort. You know, one of the greatest ways we can respond to times of crisis is to remember that we are the ancestors. We are the ancestors. You are the voice in somebody's head a generation or two from now. The words we say, the attitudes we hold, the presence we bring, that is what somebody is going to remember down the road from now, from today. Most of us are having some concerns. But what we do now, whether that for you is being bold and making acts of justice, or simply being calm and caring and being a good listener. Whether that means that you are showing love and compassion, or whether it means you're speaking prophetic witness, what's true for you. But what I know is this: I want those who come after me to remember us as the people who said, yes, we're worried, yes, we're afraid, and we hold steady. And we live our values, and we speak our truths, and we live with respect and honor and care for others. So let's just do a little reminder of those Unitarian Universalist values, right? We hold love at the center, and we work in ways to live love accountably in the world. Each of us gets to decide what that looks like. Each of us have those who have gone before us who are an inspiration, but let us remember to be the ancestors. The future generations will say, they inspired me. They give me courage when I'm having a hard time because they made it through a hard time. They made good choices when it was hard to make good choices. They lived lovingly, bravely, joyfully in the face of difficulty. I hope that in the coming days, this isn't going to just go away in a week. We know that. We can lean into one another and remind each other of how much it means to simply share the journey together in this stream of human care. May it be so. Next week, when we gather, we are going to do it in a circle. I'm not going to be the primary, I'm going to talk, but we're going to sit more in a circle, and we're going to talk with each other. We're going to actually share. So I invite you to, hold close to you whatever it is during this coming week, knowing that you're going to have an opportunity to be supported and encouraged here. In our congregation, doing things of care and support is really important. So there are lots of opportunities you have to actually do physical things to make a difference in the world. So I'm going to be sharing some resources online. I want to say a big thanks to Mary Levering, who shared some with me in an email of resources for facing some organizations that are giving us advice on how to face this time, organizations that are doing good work and have suggestions about how to handle our situation. Many of you have access to tools and resources, so we will be sharing some of those this week. And also, there are things that we can do just in our neighborhood. This quarter, our current partner in Justice and Generosity is an organization called Awesome Found, which is national and supports people who are in crisis. You can make a contribution to them. We have in the back of the room or online, you can use a QR code, or you can make a donation in the box. You can support Westside directly, or you can support Awesome Found directly. We will very soon we'll be starting our projects for the holidays. So you'll be able to help with those. I love this new technology. Is that cool or what? I love it. I'm talking about justice and generosity, and you're all looking up there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we have a projector. That is so cool. You can find information about the projects on our website, on our e-news. You can always make financial contributions to the ongoing work. I want to say a big thank you. Many of you, we got many, last week I said, we need some volunteers for some committees, and oh my gosh, they all happened. We got a whole bunch of volunteers for the committees, which was wonderful, so thank you for that. And the other way you can contribute is stick around and be in conversation. So potluck is going to happen in a few minutes. Please stick around and be in conversation with each other for potluck if you're able. And the last thing I want to give you as homework is the next time you are about to say in the next few days, oh, it's so awful. I'm trying to practice this myself. It is not easy. Because believe me, I do it. Oh, it's so awful. Oh, what's going to happen? The next time you're about to do that, stop yourself, because everybody agrees about that, and ask yourself, what can I say right now that would make me an awesome ancestor? Because I'm pretty sure that, every time I'm like, it's so awful, there's no hope, it's terrible, it's awful, what's going to, that's not going to leave anything for the people coming in future generations. That's not helpful to them. So the next time you're going to do that, just remind yourself, wait, I am the ancestors. I am the ancestors, and say something else, whatever works for you. Yetta already did a bit of a green sanctuary moment about our plastic-free week, but I'm going to give a little spiel about plastic-free week. This is hard. Have you looked at the list? It's hard. You do not have to be perfect. But give it a try. Give it a try. Even if you don't take the list home, just remind yourself during this week, we're trying to go plastic-free this week. Wow. If you can do one thing, that's awesome. If you can do 2 things, that's great. If you can do the whole sheet, that's great. You don't have to be perfect, but it's even every little bit makes a difference. So I encourage you all to participate in that in any way you can. All right, we have come to the end of our gathering, but we have not come to the most important, what I think of as the most important part of our gathering, because I get to stand up here and talk a lot. But what really matters is the connections between us. So if you would like to stand, you are invited to stand. If you would like to hold hands, you are invited to hold hands. You are also invited to not hold hands. You are welcome to do that. You can hold your own hands. It is okay. This is a kinesthetic way for us to remember that we are all connected. I know that right now it's really easy to feel like I have no power, I can't do anything, my vote doesn't count, whatever it is, right? But actually look around the room. It is amazing. And think of how many Unitarian Universalist congregations are meeting right now all over the U.S. And how many congregations of other faith traditions also having this same conversation this morning. We are more alike than we think. We are more connected by our humanity than separated by our individual experiences of training and conditioning. Please go out into this week and into this world remembering our common humanity with all people and looking into the eyes of those you encounter, not asking, how did you vote, but asking, what do you love? May it be so. Go in peace, go in passion to live the values we all hold so dear.